All right, welcome back to the Mike and George Show. On today's episode, we have a full football episode. This is the best time of the year, I think, for football, George, where it's like we're getting closer to Thanksgiving. It's a football on everyone's television, both college and NFL. We had a couple pretty crazy games in the NFL on Sunday. Colts, Chiefs. The Chiefs kind of had their back against the walls. They had to win that game. If the Chiefs lose that game, they're 5-6, and they're pretty much done. Not done, but they would be in an uphill battle. They were able to come back from 20-9 down in the fourth quarter and win that game in overtime. Then later on that day, George, 4 o'clock window, your division foes went at it. Eagles, Cowboys. Eagles are up 21-0. They blow that game to the Cowboys. Cowboys come back and get it. They're back in the race now. Cowboys, Chiefs play on Thanksgiving. What were our overall thoughts on the Sunday slate of games, and then obviously looking ahead to Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great slate. As we kind of get down here towards Thanksgiving and Christmas, the season kind of shapes up, and we start to really see who's the contender, who are the contenders, who are the pretenders.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, it feels like every week we go back and forth with, are they real? Are they not? They get a huge win against the Colts, obviously, to move back over 500. And so that's big for them. And then, that Eagles-Cowboys game was really fun. We talked about that, the one because they opened the season together, the Thursday night game, Eagles-Cowboys. They had that big rain delay, weather delay. And so it kind of was a weird game, but the Cowboys were in that one. And then they stayed around in this one. It was 21-0 Eagles, and then Cowboys bring it all the way back for the 24-21 win, 24 unanswered points. So it feels like that George Pickens, CeeDee Lamb duo is going to be troublesome down the stretch here. And the Eagles, I mean, they've been winning games. They're still, what are they, 8-4? But
they're not. They're 8-3.
8-3. Okay, so they're fine. But to me, it feels like no one's really sold on the Eagles yet. Obviously Kevin Patullo's kind of been the talk of the town over there, the coordinating room and stuff. But yeah, I mean, we've got pretty much wide open race here in both division or both conferences. As the Colts have gone down a little bit in the AFC, and then the NFC just feels like I don't even know who the NFC favorite is. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a really good race.
Yeah, the Eagles and Cowboys game. The Eagles are up 21-0. Usually, if you're down 21 to the Eagles, just say goodnight. It's ball game over. In the Eagles, and we're talking about Kevin Patullo. AJ Brown got his 100 yards and he got his 8-9 catches, but they lost the game. So it's like, when the Eagles have been winning games, it's been a little bit boring. It's been a little bit, not everyone's getting their numbers. Maybe there's some A.J. Brown, murmurs in the locker room, but they've been winning games. Like, the one thing you can't say about the Eagles is they take care of business. They win a lot of games despite all the noise. Sunday, a lot of fumbles. Weird. Saquon fumbled down there in the red zone.
Yeah.
They muff a punt down there inside their own 5-yard line. Dallas took advantage of all those opportunities. Dak Prescott just doesn't lose home divisional games. I mean, you could probably speak to it more because he faced him with Washington. This guy at home against divisional opponents is really good. He hasn't lost one at home since 2017, I believe, against the Giants. So credit to Dak, man. This Cowboys offense is real. I mean, the deadline moves they made were to fix their defense. Obviously, you bring in Logan Wilson from Cincinnati. You bring in Quinn Williams from the Jets. They've shored up that defense a little bit. They still can't really get at the quarterback, although it does help you get Overshown back healthy now, who came back a couple weeks ago against the Raiders. So big win for the Cowboys. They're 5-1. Eagles, it just feels like, okay, another one of those weird losses where it's like, man, it's just, again, very frustrating, very weird, again, situational stuff with the Eagles. Although they beat the Lions the other week. Again, not an impressive offensive showing in that game, but they did beat the Lions, and they made Jared Goff's life, a nightmare. And just give credit to Dak. He's playing MVP level football, even though the Cowboys are 5-1, and they're probably not going to go anywhere. But transitioning over to the Chiefs and the Colts, George, the Colts had like 18 opportunities to put that game away, and they couldn't do it. I mean, I was honestly a little bit worried for the Chiefs for a second there. I was like, are the Chiefs going to lose this game at home and drop to 5-6? Because the Colts were the better team through three quarters. They were up 11. They were the better red zone team. The Chiefs kept kicking field goals. The Colts were not settling for field goals. And then the fourth quarter hit in overtime, and the Colts had 4 straight 3-and-outs to end the game, and pretty much let the Chiefs kind of hang around enough and came back in it late. What were your thoughts on that Colts and Chiefs ending?
Yeah, to me, it just kind of felt like Jonathan Taylor was stifled the whole way. The Chiefs, they've been pretty consistent on defense this year. I've been pretty impressed with what they've done. And, they were kind of like, hey, if you're going to beat us, we're going to make Daniel Jones beat us.
Right.
And down the stretch, he just wasn't really able to do that. We kind of saw, we started the game, they were great. I think he was like 6 of 10 for like 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then they kind of got off schedule. They kind of got off script a little bit. And Daniel Jones struggled with the Spagnuolo defense a little bit. So I thought it was mostly just kind of Jonathan Taylor not getting going, not really allowing them to open up the pass game. I mean, their leading receiver was Ashton Dolan, who had 1 catch for 48 yards. So they just kind of never really got anything going in the second half offensively. But yeah, it felt like a game that even without their A stuff, they almost beat the Chiefs. And the Chiefs, I didn't think played all that great. Mahomes threw it 46 times, as he always does. Kareem Hunt, they snapped the ball like 90 different times.
They were in a lot of plays.
They only scored 23 points. Yeah. So feels like the Chiefs still haven't really hit their stride yet, but credit to them for winning a must-win game at home here to move to 6-5. And as the AFC kind of the race kind of slims down here, we've got someone's getting left out. The Jags are 8-4, 7-4. We got the Colts who now just lost, the Chiefs 6-5, Ravens 6-5, Steelers are still in the mix. So it feels like someone kind of we talked about earlier in the year, someone's getting left out that probably shouldn't be left out.
Right.
And so we'll see if it's the Chiefs. We'll see if it's the Colts even, because they've got a weird little stretch to end.
They got a brutal schedule on the stretch. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the Chiefs. They outsnapped the Colts by like 30 plays. They ran a lot of plays. Yeah. But they were just very off in the red zone. They were able to. I mean, you've seen Louis Anarumo's defense before in Cincinnati give Mahomes trouble in the red zone and make them kick field goals, which is kind of the only way you beat the Chiefs is make them kick field goals, and you win a low-scoring 23-20 kind of game. But the Chiefs' offense has been very hit or miss this year. I mean, you never really know which week you're going to get the Chiefs score 5 touchdowns and they look great because they had those performances against the Raiders, the Lions. They've looked great offensively at times. And they've also had these offensive performances where they're not really scoring in the red zone. They're punting a lot. They're turning the ball over. So Mahomes has had those kind of games as well, where he had those 2 turnovers against Denver the week before. So the Chiefs offense has been very, very hit or miss. It felt like that fourth quarter, though, with Rashee Rice getting into it, with Worthy getting into it, with Travis Kelce having some big plays. They needed that badly. Now they're 6-5. They're heading into Dallas now, who also got a big win themselves, another comeback win. Both teams came from behind in the fourth quarter, from double digits down. It feels like this game on Thanksgiving between the Chiefs and Cowboys, whoever wins it, it's going to be a massive win. And whoever loses it feels like it's not the right time to lose that kind of game. Because the Cowboys, if they drop to 5-6-1, it's pretty much the race is over. The NFC is so good this year.
They kind of become the odd man out in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, the Lions at the season end of today would be out of the playoffs. They are 8-4, which is crazy. They're 7-4, yeah. But they're the 8 seed currently. Like that's like 10 wins might not get you in the NFC, which is crazy. And if the Cowboys lose and go to 5-6-1, the best they can do is get to 10 wins, 10-6-1. That might not even get it. I don't know. I mean, it's weird. The NFC is that good this year, and in the Chiefs' case, because they're chasing 2 teams in their own division, Denver and the Chargers, they can't afford to lose any games either because they're already down multiple games in the division. They're 6-5. Denver's 9-2. They're 3 games back, and they lost the tiebreaker.
And they're both coming up to bye this past week, Denver and
right,
Denver
exactly
and
right, exactly right. Yeah, and LA's coming off a bye. That's actually a good point. Yeah, they're both coming off a bye, so they're both going to be well rested now. The Chiefs have to really pick up some ground here. So this game against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving is massive. Also, the Chiefs are the 10 seed in the AFC, so you'd think that they're like right in it. It's like, well, they still got to pass some teams. The Steelers are ahead of them on the tiebreakers. Houston, they play Houston in 2 weeks on Sunday Football, so they got a chance to pass Houston.
Houston's been playing their best ball so far, and they haven't even gotten Stroud healthy.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. They're 3-0 without Stroud the last few weeks. I mean, they were able to beat Tennessee, and they were able to beat Buffalo, obviously, without Stroud, and Jacksonville without Stroud. So that's really big 3-game win streak for the Texans, and their defense is just unbelievable. But the Chiefs have to get through all those teams, and then again, Buffalo currently has the 7th spot in the AFC, George. Buffalo beat them head-to-head. Jacksonville is a 6th seed. Jacksonville beat them head-to-head. Obviously, the Chargers beat them in week 1 in Brazil. So the Chiefs don't have tiebreakers with any of these teams. So they need to really make sure that they're not in a 10-7, jumbled up with everyone else because they don't have tiebreakers. They might have to go 11-6 to get in the playoffs and really ensure that they make the playoffs. And they're 6-5. That would require them going 5-1 in their last 6 games, which of course they can do. But if they lose to the Cowboys, you're basically saying, you got to be perfect on the stretch, or you're not.
Yeah, I mean they finally won their first 1-score game this past week of the season, which obviously there's a little bit of luck mixed in there. But that's an important stat. Obviously last year we talked about all off season for them. They didn't lose a single 1-possession game all season. So obviously that's huge for them. I'm happy you brought up the Bills because it just kind of feels like the Bills, they lost on Thursday, so it kind of got washed out in the week because it happened very early. But it feels like the Bills just are trending the wrong way. They lost to the Falcons earlier, lost to the Texans here. It just feels like against the backup QB Texans. So it just kind of feels like Josh Allen. Yeah, Dolphins. Yeah, well, the Dolphins played a great game, and in the division game, I'll give them a little more slack, obviously. But still, obviously, you don't want to lose to the Dolphins down the stretch as the Bills. But yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like what's gone wrong in Buffalo so far. Like Josh Allen, it kind of feels like it's Josh Allen or it's nothing, right? So
yeah, no, they're incredibly. I'm glad you brought that up. They are very one dimensional, and I pointed this out, especially in the Bills game. I mean, in the Dolphins game, I should say. It's Josh Allen, James Cook, and really nothing else. And then you watch them against Tampa Bay. The Bucs game I thought was very interesting because they won that game, but Josh Allen had
haymakers.
It was a 6 touchdown game from Allen to survive the Bucs at home. Yeah. I mean, it took 6 Josh Allen touchdowns by himself, running in 3, throwing in 3. Him and James Cook had to do everything. This offense, without Josh Allen being Superman, they're not that good. Like they're very their offense is very limited. The O-line is not as good as I thought heading into the year. And this is a team that I locked the Bills over. I thought they're going to be favored in every game.
Yeah.
They have a really easy road schedule,
And they
but
still have 7 wins with losses to the Texans and the Dolphins
and the Falcons. Yeah, 100%. They've like their road schedule this year has been really easy, but they've lost those easy games to the Falcons and the Dolphins and Houston. Without their starting quarterback. So those are like, if you were to tell Buffalo fans 2 months ago, you're going to lose to Michael Penix, Tua Tagovailoa, and Davis Mills, they would be like, "What's going on with our defense? How's that? Like,
Josh Allen got hurt or something?"
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But they have had a lot of injuries on defense. But I think their offense is super one-dimensional. I mean, without Kincaid went down in the Dolphins game, and their offense is basically just okay. Josh Allen throwing to who? Tyrell Shavers?
Khalil Shakir screen pass, and he's really fast.
Yeah, but it's
Keon Coleman has been their vertical threat, and where's he going? Exactly,
he's a healthy scratch. They didn't even play him, so they're like, oh, we're not. I mean, they have Tyrell Shavers, it's Khalil Shakir. They just brought
Dawson Knox. I mean, it's
right. Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot of. That's what I'm saying. It's not really anything crazy to look. I mean, there's nothing to write home about with that. Yeah, I mean, Brandon Cooks is now here. Joshua Palmer. I mean, it's Gabe Davis is back. So it's just like
he actually played a pretty nice game on Thursday.
He did. Yeah, he might be their second most trusted receiver because Josh Allen just kind of knows him from his time in the first in Buffalo. Yeah. But yeah, they play Pittsburgh on Sunday. George, that's a massive game because that's the last spot in the AFC, which is the Bills, and the Steelers are 1 game behind them. If the Steelers beat the Bills, that's another team who has a head-to-head over the Bills. So the Texans already beat the Bills. The Steelers, if they were able to beat the Bills, we have a serious race on our hands between 10 teams, and obviously Baltimore and Pittsburgh are fighting for the North too. So the AFC is just it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a must-win. It feels like for both teams that are kind of just trending downwards. Obviously the Steelers had that great start, and the Ravens got healthy, and we all kind of thought the Ravens would come back, but the Steelers, the drop-off has been really fast.
Yeah,
obviously last week they almost stole one against Chicago with the backup quarterback, couldn't quite get it done there. But yeah, the AFC is just a mess right now. With the teams on the bubble, Texans, Steelers, Chiefs, all in the bubble. Joe Burrow comes back this week. I'm not going to say they're gonna compete, but I mean, with Burrow, they could win 6 in a row. You just don't know.
Yeah, the Bengals are no longer pushover. They're no longer push. Yeah, that's
I mean, we've got some really good teams sitting outside the playoffs right now. If I remember correctly, the Lions and the Chiefs were both the 1 seeds last year.
Yes, you're right. Yep.
So we got both 1 seeds from last year on the bubble right now.
They're out. Yeah, they're. If the season ends today, they both be out of the playoffs. Right. The Texans, the Steelers, and the Chiefs are all on the outside looking in if it ended today. That is wild. The Ravens as well. They're in a tie for first, but that could easily be the Ravens. The Ravens, Chiefs, and Texans could easily be on the outside looking in for sure. And I don't think the Ravens have necessarily looked like world beaters. They barely beat the Browns. They barely beat the Jets. It's been more the Steelers. It's been more the Steelers coming down to earth. And obviously Aaron got hurt his wrist, and Rudolph came in. And they have not. And the Steelers' schedule the next couple weeks are very difficult. They have Buffalo, they have Baltimore, they have Detroit. 3 straight weeks. I don't think they've favored in any of those 3 games. So the Steelers could easily be. They're 6-5 right now. They could easily be 6-8, and then they get the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. But it's gonna come to the wire. I mean, the Ravens and Steelers play each other twice. So make no mistake, it's gonna come out of those 2 games. For the North. But for the wild cards, I mean, the Chiefs and Cowboys feels like the only path for them right now is wild card because Denver's so far ahead of the Chiefs, and the Eagles are probably not going to lose too many more games until the Cowboys back in it. So for the Chiefs and Cowboys on Thanksgiving, in that 4:30 window, it's probably wild card or nothing for either one of those 2 teams. And then, like you mentioned, the Bengals and Ravens is that nightcap on Thanksgiving.
That's always a great game. That's always 45.
Bengals and Ravens are always great, and it looks like Burrow is going to play. Yeah. And obviously, Jamar Chase is back from the 1-game suspension after he spit on Jalen Ramsey, so he'll be back. So this should be the Bengals are 3-8, but make no mistake, they're not like a pushover 3-8 team. No. This is again divisional game.
That offense could beat anybody, any given day.
Exactly right. And Baltimore has not been, despite having 5 wins in a row, they have not looked like world beaters at all.
Yeah, I mean I feel like they're swelling at the right time. That defense getting a little healthier, playing a little better. Yeah. Exactly. And the special team has been more consistent. But yeah, I mean you just never know. 6-5, you've kind of dug yourself a little hole. But here's what I'll ask you is, if you had to guess, and obviously I don't want you pointing teams out, but if you had to pick one team on either division, either conference that is in the playoffs now that's probably going to miss it, and one team that's not in the playoffs now that'll probably make it. Obviously Lions, Chiefs feel safe, but I mean, I'm looking at the Bears are 8-3, and it says they got a 61% chance to make the playoffs. Right. So it just kind of I'm interested to see what you think. Who maybe is a fraud right now, and who maybe is a little underrated.
So in the AFC, I don't think I think that Jacksonville, they're a little bit of a fraud watch to me. They're 7-4. But I look at the schedules on the stretch, George. I don't think the Jaguars can miss the playoffs. I agree. They get Tennessee twice, George. They get Tennessee twice. They still play the Jets once. If they don't get wins with that schedule, that's kind of on them. They play the Colts twice as well. Usually they always split with the Colts. The Colts have not won in Jacksonville in 11 years. I think the Chargers, because they lost that head-to-head with the Jaguars, the Chargers could be in some danger, and here's why. I just mentioned the Jaguars should have 3 free wins on their schedule. They should get to 10 wins easily. Yeah. The Chargers still have to go to Arrowhead and play the Chiefs. If the Chiefs are able to beat them, The Chiefs could then tie with them. Obviously, they're only one game behind the Chargers. The Chargers also still have to go to Denver. That is not a place I want to play right now in Denver, against that defense. So the Chargers still have two really tough games against them. The Chargers also still have to play the Texans and the Cowboys, two teams that are peaking right now and that have won back-to-back games. In the Texans' case, they've won 3 straight games. The Chargers also have to play the Eagles, and the Eagles are a team that I know we just mentioned them. They're they lost that game, but the Eagles,
there's just so much talent on the field.
There's so much talent. That's going to be one that they're going to be favored to win. So the Chargers' last 5 games are Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys, Texans, and Broncos. That's
every team is in the playoff mix. Yeah.
Exactly right, and a lot of those are on the road: at Chiefs, at Dallas, at Denver. Man. The Eagles game is a home game, but make no mistake, the Eagles fans will travel to SoFi. Yeah. So the Chargers are 7-4, but I would be very worried about them possibly they're in right now.
Yeah, I mean that O-line just continues to disappoint, right?
It's deteriorating.
And as great as Herbert's been, and as good as that kind of trio of receivers that they have has been pretty solid. And obviously, Arondo Gadsden has come on really nicely late, and Amarian Hampton is coming back. I agree with you. I just don't know if I see him standing up to all those because there's some really good defenses, some great play callers. Obviously, the Denver defense has been stellar this year. Yeah. Chiefs, I mean, they play the Chiefs every year. The Chiefs are going to know. Spags is going to be great. Yeah. That's just brutal. Texans have been maybe the best defense in football this year. So easily, that's tough for the Chargers for sure.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm under the assumption here because they're the current 5 seed, but the 6 and 7 seed are also 7-4, just like them. I'm assuming Jacksonville will take care of their easy games.
I agree.
And I'm also assuming that Buffalo will get right. If Buffalo doesn't get right, it could easily be the Bills on the outside. If Buffalo loses at Pittsburgh, they'll be 7-5, and they still have to play at New England and Philly.
And then, I mean, I'm not going to. Obviously, the Browns are not great, but that defense in Cleveland in late December, I mean, Josh Allen doesn't have a ton to throw to. The Bills have a weird little stretch down the
Browns are not like a free win at all. The Bengals as well, they have to play, and Burrow will be back, like I said. And again, they still got to face Philly, and they still have to face at New England. So the Bills are not they're 7-4, but they have to win some of these games. They can't just, like I said, they don't have the tiebreakers with Pittsburgh if they lose, if they don't have the tiebreaker with Houston if they lose. So I don't know. I think Houston and Kansas City are not in right now, but they all play teams that are ahead of them. So they have a chance to make up that ground, if you know what I mean. Sure. So like it's all in front of them for Kansas City. Kansas City plays the Chargers. They play the Texans. They play the Broncos. The Broncos play the Colts. They play the Chargers. So the teams that are ahead of the Texans, they play them already. So we'll see. It'll play itself out, obviously, because these teams all play each other. In the NFC, I think all these teams are good. That's the thing. I don't think there's any fraud. I think the Bears are good. But the Bears' upcoming schedule, and you probably looked at it, George, it's pretty brutal. They got the Eagles on Black Friday. They got at Green Bay after that. They play Green Bay 2 weeks after that. Then they play at San Francisco, and they finish against Detroit. So again, all playoff teams. So it's like nowhere to hide if you're Chicago. If they want to make the playoffs, they got to go through murderer's row to get there. They are 8-3. They have a 1-game lead in the division, but the Packers are right behind them, and obviously the Lions are 1 game behind them as well. So I think right now it's 8 teams fighting for 7 spots. I mean, I guess it's 9 teams fighting for 7 spots because the Panthers can just win the South. They're right there in the South race.
Yeah, and then the Cowboys as well, kind of depending on how this week goes.
True. That's a good point. If Dallas wins, they are right in it. If they beat Kansas City, I'm just kind of assuming they're not going to beat Kansas City, but they very well could. Their offense has been unbelievable. If Dallas does win, they would be 6-5-1, and they would be 1 game behind the 49ers in the loss column. So it would be feasible. They could go on running. They could do it. My guess is this is probably. I think the Lions will get in. The Lions are currently not in, like you mentioned earlier. I think they get in. I think the one team I would pull out of there.
This is so hard. Yeah, right.
Here's the thing: the Bears and Packers play twice. I think one of those teams, if they lose both of them, can't afford to lose both. So, basically, what I'm saying is, say the Packers sweep the Bears, or vice versa. Say the Bears sweep the Packers. I think if you get swept, you're on the outside looking in. You can't afford to lose both games. So they have to split, is basically what I'm thinking. The 49ers have such an easy schedule coming up. They have the Browns, the Titans, and they have the Browns and Titans, and then their bye week. So they should be 10-4, heading into the last 3 games. So I think the 49ers will be able to get in. But the Bears and Packers play each other twice, and obviously the Lions play the Packers on Thanksgiving week. On Thursday is the first game. They also finish with the Bears. So the Bears, Packers, and Lions will play itself out. Do all 3 teams get in? I don't think so. I think one of them gets left out. I don't know who it is. My guess would be whoever doesn't win those Bears-Packers games. I think Detroit will get in. I do think Detroit will get in, though. Yeah.
I think I agree. It's interesting because obviously the format. I think the worst team that's in the playoffs picture right now is the Buccaneers pretty comfortably. Kind of the way they played down the stretch. Baker got injured, obviously.
All the injuries.
I was watching last night very intently. I was like, if the Panthers pull some magic out here against this Niners team, then they could absolutely make a run and win the South here. And then Brock Purdy comes out and throws 3 interceptions, and it feels like all the momentum in the world is going towards Carolina, and they just don't capitalize.
They only scored 3 points. off 3
Bryce Young with the red zone pick that he threw was one of the worst decisions I've ever seen.
Really
and it's a shame because I like Bryce Young a lot, but it's a shame. So I wanted to come on here and talk about the Panthers so badly, but after that Monday night game, I can't really in good faith until I'm sure they'll come back and they'll beat like the Chiefs or something. They always come back and win some crazy game.
Yeah.
Bryce Young looks like the MVP. But yeah, I mean, as it shapes down, I agree. I think the Lions will probably find their way in. And I mean, just kind of the way it looks, I'd have to guess, like you said, the Packers or Bears. And I think I like the Packers a little more right now. But I mean, like, I love Ben Johnson. Like, I think he's going to come prepared for Caleb Williams. I think that there's so many weapons on that field and the defense is playing well. So it's hard to pick.
Yeah, honestly, and maybe I'm wrong. I trust Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson right now more than I do Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur.
I think that's
obviously
fair.
The Packers defense is what it is, and it's great. Mm-hmm. But the Packers have had some weird games offensively.
Bears have beefed up that O-line. It's not the same Bears O-line as last year.
And they are running the football. They are doing it no matter who's in front of them. They don't care. They're running the football. The Panthers, like you mentioned, I honestly, this is maybe biased because I think Baker's awesome. If the Panthers make the playoffs, I think that would be a travesty for the NFC. I think we need Baker in the playoffs. Again, I'm just sorry. Bubble wrap Baker at Mayfield. Can this Bucs team please get healthy?
We need a healthy Baker in the playoffs because we've seen the shoulder injuries kind of in Cleveland a little bit, and he wasn't
a healthy Baker in the playoffs. I think he could theoretically beat any of these teams, but the Bucs obviously have struggled against these good teams. They beat Seattle and San Francisco, and he played well in both those games. But then they've been so hurt since then, it hasn't really mattered. I think Carolina, they're 6-6 right now. They still play the Rams, they still play the Bucs twice, and then they play Seattle. So I don't think that the Panthers are making the playoffs. I really don't, unless they beat the Rams and Seahawks. But it's going to come down to those two Bucs games.
Kind of the way the season's going, it feels like that's the games they would win, just kind of based on
those. That is a good point. They've lost.
They'll beat whoever. Yeah,
right. They've lost to the Saints, but they beat the Packers and they've beaten other good teams. So yeah, you have a that's a good point. But I do think that whoever's that 4 spot is getting kind of bull rushed in that first round. Whoever wins the South, I'm sorry. I'd rather to be the Buccaneers. I think Buccaneers have.
Yeah, I mean, if the Bucs can get fully healthy, maybe. I just don't see it. I mean, seeing like the way Baker really has kept that offense afloat. Tez Johnson kind of. He's a rookie. I mean, he's been one of the best rookie receivers in the entire league this year.
Yeah, they haven't had their healthy receivers at all. It's just been a bunch of like, okay, I guess it's the rookies. It's Tez Johnson and Emeka Egbuka because Godwin's been in and out. He was hurt to start the year. He came back in week 4, then got hurt again. Now he just came back last week and wasn't really. He was kind of a shell of himself. Mike Evans has been out basically the whole year.
Yeah.
Obviously, Bucky Irving's been out since week 5 or week 4.
I think they're just finally getting him back. Yeah.
Right. The skill guys have not been there for Tampa Bay. I think if Carolina gets in, it'd be a lot of what you saw Monday Night Football last night. I just don't think that their offense is good enough. They're very one-dimensional. Similar to the Bills, they have to play one way. And
they only gave Rico Dowdle the ball 6 times on the ground.
And that's what I'm saying, because they were already behind this. Either you get behind the 6 or you're behind the scoreboard. Like
they forced 3 turnovers. Like, just run the ball, man. It's not
100%. But when you were down 7-0 already. And now you're getting good field position, but they didn't take advantage of any of it. Their offense I don't think it's good enough. That's my opinion. Like the Bills' offense, Allen can get you 6 touchdowns, and then you can look good. But I think it's a very one-dimensional offense. It's very we have to run the ball. The Panthers have to run the ball with Rico Dowdle for 150 yards to beat somebody. And if they're not doing that, there's not really like the Panthers can beat you this way. They really can't beat you any other way. It's kind of that's their way of beating you. And if the 49ers did a good job of stopping the run early and go up 14 points in the second half, it's like, okay, well, now the Panthers are now they're a hurry up offense, which is down 2 scores.
Bryce Young just doesn't have that. Yeah.
They're not built to come back like that. That's not how their team's built. So I think Tampa Bay at least would make something interesting. But I think you're right. I think it's everyone. I think the Rams and Eagles. And again, I think the entire wild card's gonna be really interesting. So I think Detroit, Green Bay, they might end up with wild cards. Seattle and San Francisco. That's a 3-division NFC West, which all those teams are good. It's like the 49ers and Seahawks are good. The 49ers are very injured. Seattle's very good. You can never rule out the 49ers with Shanahan and with the way CMC's playing. I mean, they can beat anybody too. The NFC playoffs are going to be super, super fun. But again, selfishly, I hope that Baker gets in.
I mean, CMC looks like he's going to go for 1,000 rushing and receiving, and it looks like he might go for like 1,200 apiece. So
he might go for 1,200 apiece. Sure,
I mean, so we've got. I think we're going to get into this in a second, but like the Coach of the Year battle, the Offensive Player of the Year battle, the MVP stuff. I mean, we've got a really cool race this season.
Yeah, I was just going to get to that. So. Yeah, the NFC playoffs, like I said, are going to be awesome. The AFC playoffs could be crazy as well if we get like a Mahomes and Allen that are out on the outside looking in. Yeah. That would be wild. Lamar, same thing. But yeah, let's get to the awards now. So kind of a mid-season / 2/3 of the season away, or through the season now. MVP. We can start with MVP because I think we'll probably have the same one. Maybe you'll go differently, but I think that we both agree on who the MVP is through. Now I guess
I think we do, but we'll see.
Well, here's the thing. I want to give a shout out to Jonathan Taylor though, because if there's ever a year where a running back should win it. I thought a couple years ago McCaffrey should have won it. That would have been where my vote was. But Lamar was the better of all the quarterbacks. Lamar was the best quarterback, but I would have went McCaffrey that year. I think this year Jonathan Taylor is far and away. If a running back was going to win it, it would be him. But obviously, we probably don't think it's going to be him.
Yeah, I mean, so we'll do the honorable mentions because I think we're both going to pick quarterbacks. So credit to Jonathan Taylor and credit to Jackson Smith and Jigba because
Easily,
2 historic seasons, unbelievable. JSN is having genuinely efficiency-wise and production-wise maybe the best receiver season ever.
Yeah,
the Seahawks are like 31st pass attempts per game, and he's a comfortable leader in like receiving yards and all kinds of stats. So it's JSN.
George, he's on pace to break Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp's record. He's on pace to go for 2,000 yards.
He's on pace for 2,000. I mean, it's unbelievable. And
now again, Tyreek is also on pace
sat like 4 fourth quarters. If I
know. It's very much like remember the Dolphins in 2023 where they were scoring 70 points. Tyreek was on pace for 2,000 that year,
and he got kind of like took the brakes off a little bit. Yeah,
right, exactly right. But right now with the way he's not even playing that much, like you said, they're not throwing the ball that much. He's on pace. I don't think he's gonna get it because everyone's on pace for 2,000, and then it's like okay, something happens.
I mean down the stretch with the extra game maybe, but down the stretch it's so
right.
hard.
It's a good point, maybe, but he's been unbelievable. Yeah.
But okay, we can move to MVP. For me, right now it's got to be Matt Stafford. I love Drake May. I think that Drake May is the number 2 guy. But right now it's got to be Stafford. He's with like 30-2 touchdown to interception. He hasn't thrown a pick in like 2.5 months. And the Rams are unbelievable. And I thought kind of beginning of the season that, I mean, he wasn't playing poorly, obviously, but the first 3 or 4 games, he wasn't playing his best. I mean, he was okay. There was rumors in the offseason he wasn't fully healthy. We weren't sure if we were going to get Matt Stafford 100%. Obviously, they brought Devontae Adams in. They beefed up the defense a little more. I love Mike Shula, what he's doing. And you just kind of seen, I mean, Devontae Adams has been unbelievable. I mean, he's been the best red zone offensive player in the league. That's running backs. That's tush push. That's anybody. So yeah, credit to the Rams there. And yeah, for me, it's Stafford comfortably until something changes. With May at number 2. The only reason I can't give it to May yet, and I love Drake May, well, the numbers I don't think quite support it, but he hasn't had a 300-yard game yet. And so I need to see one of those, like, just obviously over the top.
I thought it would come against Cincinnati. If anyone was it would become Cincinnati. But I think it's easily Matthew Stafford. And I think Drake May, for sure, it would be the second runner in command. If you're going to go quarterback, for sure, it'd be Drake May, easily. Matthew Stafford, holy cow. I mean, you mentioned Devontae Adams. Great point, because this is, in my opinion, the best fade thrower and goal line fade for anyone.
He just puts it where he wants it.
It's the best goal line fade route runner in Devontae Adams, who's the best at running fades and the goal line, and it's the best fade thrower in Matthew Stafford. So when they throw a goal line fade or just any kind of fade in the red zone to Devontae Adams and it's coming from Stafford, I'm like, it's going to be a picture perfect throw.
It's like 95% completion.
It's literally like, it's unstoppable. It's like a, Shohei Ohtani, breaking ball. It's whatever you want to call it. It's unguardable in this case, in the NFL's case. So you can't guard it. There is no
Myles Garrett of the offense.
It's the Myles, exactly right. It's unbelievable. So Stafford, 30 touchdowns and 2 picks. Like you said, he hasn't thrown a pick in, I think, since
September, genuinely.
Exactly right. Like early September. It's been we're mid-September. So that's insane. The Rams offense is clicking on. He didn't have to even play the second half, really. Like the game was over at halftime. No. Stafford is easily. And it was funny. The guys who were in the race, like Baker's in the race early, had a bad game. Darnold was in the race and had a 4 interception game against the Rams, so he took himself out of the race. Allen was the favorite, then had an awful game against, I believe it was, it was the Dolphin game or the Falcon game, one of those 2 games where he fell.
Allen kind of like the last month really is kind of taking himself out of it a little bit.
Yeah, the last
the 6 touchdown game, obviously, but then
it's been like this. He was out of the race and had a bad Falcons game, then was back in the race with the Tampa Bay game where he had 6 touchdowns, and then he's kind of back out of the race now after the Texans game where he had 2 turnovers and got sacked 9 times. So Mahomes hasn't been that efficient. He's turned the ball over a little bit more. I think it's got to be Stafford or May if you're going to go quarterback. And I think in this case, it's Stafford unless he just completely falls apart. Obviously, May has the 10-2 record, but they haven't really beaten anybody of note. I mean, they beat Tampa Bay, but I mean, the Rams just did that.
The Bills it's a good win in Buffalo, obviously.
The Buffalo road win is the big one because other than that, they faced they faced Flacco, Tyrod Taylor was the last couple wins, Michael Penix. I mean, those guys aren't going to be playing.
I mean, you play who's on your schedule, obviously, but when you're giving an award out, I think you have to consider it a little bit.
Right. I just think that Stafford's just unstoppable. He's in a division where the Seahawks defense is top 5 and everything.
Yeah. Absolutely.
49ers. Yeah. I mean, I think it's Stafford right now. Offensive player of the year, like we just mentioned, it's a 2-horse race. Taylor is -115. JSN is -110. It's quite literally a pick 'em for offensive player of the year. I mean, they're both having historic seasons. It's kind of like crazy. It's the same season, but Jonathan Taylor is on pace to shatter rushing records, and yet JSN is on pace to shatter receiving records. Of course, everything is on pace. There's still 6 games to go. But would it be JSN for you, the receiver for the Seahawks, or would it be Jonathan Taylor for what he's doing in Indianapolis?
It's so hard. I mean, it's a toss-up. I love JSN. I love JT.
Yeah.
I actually wrote down Jahmyr Gibbs as well, just after last week's performance. I don't think he's in the mix quite yet, but I mean, he's been unbelievable as well.
He's third there, and McCaffrey's fourth. Yeah,
exactly. But I think it's got to be Jonathan Taylor if he gets to that 2,000-yard mark.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of depends, because if JSN gets to the 2,000, to me, it's just whoever has the biggest number at the end of the season, right? And if JT scores the 25 touchdowns or whatever, and he approaches that LaDainian Tomlinson record, then it's a different conversation. But yeah, we'll see. Right now, if I had to pick, I think I'm going Jonathan Taylor, just because that Colts turnaround has been unbelievable. Yeah. And I've been really impressed. But I mean, yeah, it's hard to pick one there because they're all so talented.
I'm going to see the exact same thing as you. It's kind of a cop-out answer, but I think it's whoever gets to the 2,000. If Jonathan Taylor breaks the touch, if he gets to that LaDainian Tomlinson number, I think it's his. And I'm kind of just assuming that the Colts, for them to win, it has to be Jonathan Taylor goes crazy. We saw it last week against the Chiefs. If it's not Jonathan Taylor going crazy,
we kind of see some Daniel Jones. He's kind
of coming back to. He's coming back to the pack. He had a historic first 7 or 8 games. He's kind of coming back to the pack slowly but surely. Not saying he's turning back into like a bad quarterback. I'm saying he's coming back to the pack of like, okay, he looks like a normal quarterback now. I think it's Jonathan Taylor too. I think what he's done with the Colts has been unbelievable. I'm reserved to change my. I don't know. Is basically what I'm saying. I don't, because I think JSN is going to be.
As it
right
stands,
there.
It's one of those two, but I mean, Gibbs and McCaffrey are staring from a distance.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be a photo finish. As it stands right now, JT and JSN are like the leaders, and it's like, okay, this is the last lap of the race. But Gibbs and McCaffrey are like sprinting behind them, like, hey, don't forget about us. Here we go. Here we come. So I think right now it's Taylor, but again, subject to change, obviously, because this thing is far from over. I think the defensive player of the year is over. The odds suggest it's over. This guy is minus 1,500.
He's going to approach the record. Yeah, I mean,
he's on pace to shatter the record that TJ Watt and Michael Strahan had, which is 22.5 sacks. Obviously, Strahan did it when there was a 16-game season. Watt broke it when it was a 17th game a couple of years ago in 2022. Myles Garrett's on pace for 25 sacks. That doesn't even seem right to say. He had another 3.5 on Sunday. It's Myles Garrett, right? This isn't even like a debate.
To me, I don't think it's even a question. Obviously, what he's doing is ridiculous. He maybe is one of the best defensive players to ever play the game, ever. And then I think you can't talk about Myles Garrett without mentioning the impact of Mason Graham. Obviously, the defensive tackle that they brought in, 5th overall pick this year. He's been kind of the reason that Myles Garrett's really been able to get those one-on-ones on the outside, really get to that quarterback. Obviously, Garrett's unbelievable. He can't take anything away from him. But, kind of you're seeing some of the weight on the offensive line have to shift towards the middle as opposed to just loading up against Myles Garrett, because there's other threats there. And that Browns defense has been really, really talented this year. So, to me, it's comfortably Myles Garrett.
George, did you see the Raiders' game plan of, we're not going to block Myles Garrett on Sunday. We're going to put a tight end on him, or we're going to say, maybe he'll get his, but we're not going to double team.
I wonder how many sacks they had that game, Mike.
Yeah, the Browns had 10 sacks.
It was like the most in like 10 years or something.
Yeah, the Raiders' offensive line is really bad, but Myles Garrett, in his credit, has done it against everybody this year.
And the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league no longer has a job.
No, Chip Kelly's out of a job, and that was probably a little bit long overdue, because the Raiders.
I can't believe they gave him that much. I mean,
the Raiders' offense has been so unwatchable. Not to go into a Raiders segment here, but I feel bad for Ashton Genty, because that Raiders offensive line. I don't know if you watch the Film Breakers, the guy on Instagram, where he's like the offensive line guy. He's breaking down the offensive line, and he's
been giving it to the Raiders all year. I mean,
he's been giving it to the Raiders all year. It's like, what are these guys doing? And their game planning on Sunday was just not block Myles Garrett. We're gonna make an unblocked player. We're gonna let Myles Garrett just come into our backfield.
We're gonna let the best edge rusher of all time just walk in the backfield against.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Shout out to Will Anderson. He made Josh Allen's life miserable on Thursday night. He's in the race too.
Beast this year.
He's been unbelievable. I think he is the best player on maybe the best defense in the league. The Texans defense.
He's gonna get a huge contract.
Oh my gosh, and rightfully so. Nick Benito's been unbelievable for Denver. That defense is top notch as well. Micah Parsons is kind of just saving the Packers' kind of lackluster offense, but he's been their life beat defensively, obviously. It's going to be a pass rusher like it always is usually. I mean, last year was Surtains, who was the rare corner year, but it's back to the pass rushers year, and it's Myles Garrett leading the clubhouse. Offensive Rookie of the Year, it feels like a 4-horse race.
I've got 3 names. We can bring the 4th one in.
Right, the honorable mention.
Yeah. So I got Egbuka as number 1 right now. I think that he's probably my guy. And then I have Tyler Warren as well, who's kind of taking a step back. And then obviously up until he got hurt this week, I actually had Will Campbell. Obviously, they're not going to give it to offensive tackle here, but he's been really, really good this season. He did get hurt this past week, and so I kind of am taking him off the list here. But to me, Egbuka feels like kind of my guy. But yeah, I'd like to hear your take.
So I had Egbuka as my 1, and then I had my honorable mentions were Tet and Tyler Warren. So I just think Tet, and again, it's unfortunate because I think the Panthers' offense is kind of unwatchable. He did have that touchdown against the Niners last night on that post, but I think Emeka both these guys in the NFC South, McMillan and Ibuka, are really, really good. Unfortunately, with the Bucks, their offense has been so in and out of the lineup. Everyone in the line, but Emeka's been the only constant. Really, he's been out there. He hasn't been hurt. He's been really good. And Ted McMillan, I think, is just phenomenal. For him to get numbers in an offense that's kind of just ground and pound, and we're not going to.
He's so athletic; he can play anywhere. I mean,
that's what I'm saying. But they're not throwing unless they have to, really. And they got behind the sticks, and it's like, okay, I guess we got to throw it out. But their thing is they're going to run the ball first and establish that. Emeka's been unbelievable. I'm going to give Emeka a slight edge because I do think that he's been more valuable for that team.
I agree.
And then Tyler Warren, they're not going to give him after Brock Bowers did not win Offensive Rookie of the Year last year.
Yeah.
Even though obviously Jaden Daniels was phenomenal, so I'm not saying he got robbed or anything, but. After
Bowers had a historic season,
yeah, Bowers was breaking records for a rookie tight end. So because he didn't win the award, it would feel bad for Tyler Warren to win the award.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but Warren's been. Nick was saying I don't want to give all the awards to the Colts, but he's been a big reason why the Colts have been really good this year. I mean, he's been kind of changed that offense, like I mentioned earlier. Like Tyler Warren's been outstanding. He's been rightfully in the race for the award. So, but I don't think he's going to win it, obviously. And Dart is plus 300 here. I don't think he's going to win the award, but
I don't think he played enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the thing. He hasn't played enough. Winston's been really fun too. For James
Winston, dude, that play he made last week, I'm gonna have to give him a little airtime here. That was maybe the best play of the season. He makes the play in space against the safety, breaks a tackle. The celebration was great. So
he broke the same tackle like 3 different times. It was unbelievable. Yeah. I was like, he broke it again. I was like,
that's a quarterback. That's like a 36-year-old quarterback out there.
And then he gave him the Heisman. And again, Jameis is a Heisman winner, so he can do that.
Love Jameis.
Defensive Rookie of the Year. I can't believe I'm saying this. My buddy chatted out before the year started. I was like, who's like a dark horse rookie of the year that could win it for defense? Because the pass rushers are not like anything crazy. I mean, obviously Abdul Carter was a heavy favorite, but he hasn't had a great year. And the other pass rushers were a lot of projects. It looks like Carson Schlesinger, the rookie linebacker for the Browns, is going to win this award, and he kind of should. I mean, he's tackling everybody. He's like the leader of this Browns defense outside of course, Myles Garrett. But as far as the linebackers go, he's the one that's kind of stepping up and making every play. Carson Schlesinger, I've watched, don't ask me why, I've watched a lot of Browns games this year. I really was interested in watching them last week specifically because of Shore, and even the week before that. So I'm like, I want to watch the Browns now. They're back on my television because I had them they were banned from my quad box for about a month because I don't want to watch the Browns anymore. Now I'm back on Browns games because of what Myles Garrett's doing and because Shador's playing now. But also this guy Schlesinger keeps popping up the screen. He's unbelievable. Yeah. Every tackle is made by that guy. I mean, he's been really, really good. Obviously, it helps playing with Myles Garrett in that front four, but I think it's his award right now. Obviously, Abdul Carter, unless he is able to put up some monster weeks on the stretch here, is probably going to be Carson Schlesinger.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree here. It's kind of weird to give it to an interior linebacker, but I mean, he's been so talented and he's kind of he's flowing with the offense. I mean, if you're smart enough to play behind Myles Garrett and you do it right, I mean, it's going to take care of itself. Abdul Carter's been great, obviously. I think Jalen Walker deserves a little shout out here. Yeah. But yeah, to me, it's Carson Schlesinger. I agree there. I mean, it's surprising to go to a linebacker, but I mean, there's not really an edge rusher that deserves it.
Not only that, George, we're going to give 2 awards to Browns players. They are a 3-8 team, but right now they're on pace to have.
I mean, they're the defensive awards, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But they're on pace to have the defensive player of the year.
Shador Sanders, offensive rookie of the year.
He still has a case too if he puts up 7 or 8 weeks of good football. The Browns defense, though, not to clown them, they have a great defense. So we're giving them awards for defensive players.
No, they're valid awards. They're justifiably.
They are justifiably a good defense. They have 3 wins because they're other things, but. They are a very good defense. So coach of the year, I think, could be really interesting. There's probably 4-5 guys maybe that have a case for it. Who's your honorable mention? Who do you end up giving it to?
So I like Vrabel here. I think that I understand the schedule hasn't been incredible, obviously, but I like Vrabel a lot here. And then honorable mentions, I've got Steichen. Obviously, that turnaround's been unbelievable. McVay's been great. McVay feels like every year he could be the coach of the year just because that offense is so awesome. And then after that, Shanahan's got an argument just based on kind of the way he's keeping his team afloat.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
And then, to me, that's kind of the old. And Ben Johnson, probably not, but he's been really solid in his first year there. But to me, it's Vrabel, Steichen, McVay is kind of the top 3.
I went with Vrabel too. I did want to shout out because I think Steichen was the early prohibited runaway favorite with the way their offense was playing.
Yeah,
and the way he was
definitely.
But I think Vrabel's for sure got it unlocked. And not an unlock. He doesn't have it unlocked, but I do think Vrabel's he's the
heavy favorite currently.
Yeah, he's got the inside track of winning it. But I did want to mention outside of Steichen, who you mentioned, I think Shanahan has to be at least an honorable mention with the way that he's kept his team afloat. I mean, not only afloat, they're 8-4. They're without
so many injuries. Yeah,
Fred Warner's out for the year. Nicky Bosa's out for the year. Only played 1 game. George Kittle missed the first month. They couldn't run the ball without George Kittle, obviously. Ayuk is still not back. So they've had all.
He might not play all year. His contract got voided.
Either. Jawan Jennings was in and out of the lineup. Pearsall had missed a game or 2. Purdy obviously had missed a month and a half. Maybe they were better off without Purdy, but nonetheless, they have missed. Their stars have missed a lot of games. Any coach they put on the graphic last night. any coach without his quarterback, his tight end, and his pass rushers, they don't win games usually. They don't win games. They're not able to compete, especially the tight end of Kittle's caliber. They were able to win those games without all their star power, basically. It's just been McCaffrey, really. Surprisingly, he's been the one that stayed healthy out of all of them. But I think he deserves some credit. Like, he's 7th here he's 8th in odds. I think he should be a little bit higher than that. But I do think it's Vrabel, and then I would say Steichen, Ben Johnson, and then you got to go McVay or Shanahan, one of those two guys. So you can give it to them every year.
It's that group of 4-ish. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, McVay and Shanahan, you can throw them in there every year. But I think this year, specifically with how the Rams are playing offensively and what the Niners are doing without any of their big players really is huge. So I think it would be Vrabel, but there's like a lot of honorable mentions you can give it to too. Yeah. The last one here is come back by the year. Come back by the year. And this one is it's McCaffrey or Dak, essentially. It's kind of like
that's who I have. I did write 2 other names that I just have to give a little bit of love to. That first being Daniel Jones, who kind of lately has taken a step back, obviously. So I think he's kind of removed himself from this equation, and I think it is kind of Dak or CMC. And then lastly here, and more so as of late, just because I've been watching him a lot lately. But how about Emmanuel Forbes? I mean, obviously, I don't see this award going to a cornerback who's kind of on the Rams here. But, I mean, he's been unbelievable. Obviously, I remember him in D.C. I remember drafting him. I remember wanting Christian Gonzalez, and I was a little disappointed. And obviously, he didn't pan out how he wanted him to. But, I mean, the turnaround that he's put up, he's a legit
He's a great corner now.
Feels like right now. He's a legit CB1.
Yeah.
He's playing good matchups. They're not putting him on A.J. Brown. They know that he's not. That's not who he's supposed to cover. He's not made to cover DK Metcalf and AJ Brown, those big guys. He's made to cover a slot guy. He's made to cover a JSN type guy. And we saw him what he did, and he held JSN to his worst performance of the year.
Yeah,
so a little bit of love to Emmanuel Forbes here, but yeah, you're right. It's a Dak or a CMC, but I had to slip that in there.
I do think this is tough. CMC's a slight favorite.
I think CMC 2,000 yards.
If he does that, it's his award. And I think Dak is leading another good offense. Now, usually when Dak plays, this is what the Cowboys do. They score points.
Dak is great. Nobody's
great. No, 100%. Yeah. And I'm a Dak fan. Hutchinson as well is having a really good year off of it. But usually, here's the reason why I didn't go Daniel Jones. Because Daniel Jones, while he was the leader in the clubhouse for the first 4 weeks, what is exactly he coming back from other than this was
trash?
Right. Here's the thing. And this was the case for Darnold last year, who was not injured at all. In San Francisco, he was just the backup quarterback. He went to the Vikings and had an MVP caliber year, and they were like, "Oh, he should win comeback player of the year." I'm like, "That's not usually how they award things. Usually it's a bounce back from an injury, which Darnold
or some kind of personal experience." Yeah,
exactly right. So it's usually that, which Daniel Jones doesn't fit that category, but it's almost like the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold category of he came back and revived his career, which I respect that for sure because I thought Baker should have won the 1 year. I think the 1 year they didn't give it to Baker, it was between DeMar Hamlin and Joe Flacco, and I was like, okay. Obviously, Hamlin had the huge incident. Flacco was not injured at all. He was just kind of, off the couch and then had a great year with the Browns. I figured that Baker should have won the award that year, but that was just my opinion. This year, obviously, it's McCaffrey, Dak, who both had, injuries last year. And McCaffrey was that calf that had him turned into a kill. I mean, it was obviously the year from the hell from the 49ers standpoint. And then Dak obviously had the season-ending injury midway through the season. So I think it's going to be one of those two. I would go McCaffrey right now because like we mentioned with JT, I think if he's able to get to the all-purpose yards thing that he's on pace for, I think it's McCaffrey. I think the wins also will trump the Cowboys. I think the 49ers will get to 11 wins or so, and that probably will be enough for McCaffrey to get the award.
Yeah, I mean, I think that maybe if the Cowboys were managed to make some kind of late-term playoff run here where Dak is just lights out, kind of like what we've seen out of Stafford the last 8 weeks, if Dak is able to give us that, then I think the award might be his. But yeah, I like McCaffrey here. I think that he's just been unbelievable. He's been the entire Niners offense, with Purdy out obviously, and I think Kittle missed some games, and the receiver room has been banged up. He's just been everything, and so you got to give credit to CMC. So yeah, I'm happy to give him the award here.
No, he's saving their season by no. I mean, literally, he's been unbelievable. Purdy last night, it was just like, okay, where's McCaffrey? Find him.
It wasn't Purdy, that's for sure.
Exactly right. Yeah, it's all McCaffrey. No doubt about that. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll go over the CFP rankings, which come out in about less than an hour. So we'll be back after that. All right, we are back to discuss some CFP rankings, which drop at the top of the hour at 7 o'clock Eastern time. George, not a chaotic week of college football last week. We had a lot of SEC teams playing against, Pacific Coast Tech and Roast Beef Tech and other things. Pretty much just directional schools. The top 14 all won last Saturday. Utah survived a scare against Kansas State. Everyone else won pretty comfortably. Oregon was able to beat USC in that big matchup. That was really the only big matchup of the week.
Yeah, that was the only team that kind of took up the tumble was USC.
Yeah, that's pretty much the only one. Everyone else was able to take care of the business. So what are we looking forward to tonight specifically? And then I guess we'll get into who's actually still alive in this race.
Yeah, so obviously kind of the first thing. I mean, it feels like right now all the 10-win teams outside of BYU kind of feel like they're a shoe-in right now, whether that's at large or whether that's their conference championship.
Yeah.
The thing right now for me is the Miami Notre Dame thing. Because, they've been talking about it the last couple of weeks, and they haven't been comparing them directly. Obviously, there's a little bit of a gap there. Even though they have the same record and Miami holds the head-to-head, they still have Notre Dame ranked ahead of them.
Yeah.
And I understand what it is because it's more recency bias a little bit, and based on Miami's kind of played poorly down the stretch as while Notre Dame has won 9 in a row. So that to me is kind of the big question. And then I'm interested to see where they put BYU, obviously, because I think that with 10-1 and their only loss being a top 5 Texas Tech team, it feels like that should probably give them a little more credit. But yeah, I think that it's really going to come down to a really fun championship Saturday. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm excited to watch that Alabama Auburn. The Iron Bowl is going to be great. Michigan, obviously, we talked about it last week. They're never out of it until the game is played. Especially with only one conference loss, they could technically still win the Big Ten. As we kind of see this penultimate ranking show, I'm very intrigued to see how the 8 through 15 mix is kind of ranked.
Yeah, George, I wrote this down too. It feels like everyone's in a win-and-in scenario. The problem is there's not enough spots for all these teams that could just win their way in. So, for example, Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, and Georgia are all in, right? Like they can all lose this weekend and still get in. They're all.
I think Oregon. I think you might be able to put Oregon in that mix too.
Maybe Oregon's a lock too. Although the rest,
I guess I can't say it is if I'm saying maybe.
My issue is there's gonna be so many 10-2 teams. I can't lock any 10-2 team yet. My thing is though, Ohio State, Indiana, and A&M are all 11-0. They can all lose this weekend. They're all gonna make the playoff. Is essentially what I'm saying here. So they're all locks. Georgia's a lock at 10-1. They could lose to Georgia Tech. They're gonna be fine. They're in at 10-1. They've already have wins over Ole Miss. They have a win over Tennessee. They have a win over Texas. Like they're in. Georgia's in at 10 wins. They can end the season right now. They're in. So there's 4 locks in my estimation right now. I wrote down teams that are, if they win one game left, they're in the CFP. I think Oregon for sure. If they win against Washington, they're in the playoff. There's no doubt they're not leaving them out. That would be 5 teams. If Texas Tech beats Ole Miss, if they win the Egg Bowl, they are in. That's 6 teams. If Texas Tech beats West Virginia and Morgantown, they will be 11-1. They're in. They could even lose to BYU, I believe, because they'd already beaten them. They could be like, hey, we beat everyone on our schedule. Yeah. I think 11-2 Texas Tech will get in because they can, again, say we beat everybody on our schedule. And I think they can afford a loss in the Big Ten. Right now, they're 5th in the country, so they're not going to fall 6 spots out of the playoff if they lose in the conference championship. I don't believe.
You don't think?
No, so that's what I'm saying. If they beat West Virginia, I think they're in. So that would be 4 teams that I already mentioned, plus Oregon, Ole Miss, and Texas Tech. That would be 7 locks, essentially, if they win. I think if Oklahoma beats LSU, they would be a 10-2 SEC team with wins over Bama, with wins over Michigan, with a win over Tennessee, at Tennessee. Oklahoma, I believe, would be in, right? I mean, I'm not breaking anything, right? Oklahoma would be in at 10-2.
Definitely.
Then there's 2 at-large spots left. So that would be 8 at-large spots. There's only 10 at-large teams. Obviously, you have to have room for the ACC title champion and then the Group of 5 champion. That's the other 2 spots. There's only 2 at-large spots left, George. I feel like Notre Dame's in a win-and-in scenario. If they beat Stanford, they should be in. Mm-hmm. They're in right now.
I agree.
And then Alabama plays Auburn. If they win in Auburn, are they in? So is that 2 more win-and-ins teams? And then
so to me, where it's weird is why is Alabama ahead of BYU? And I understand you're going to have your arguments, but I think that it kind of feels like they did their rankings and then they did their reasoning after. It feels like they're like, well, we know Alabama's a better team than BYU, obviously. Look at all the talent out there. And to me, it's like, well, that's not what we're ranking. I think that's where the argument's going to be because, like you said, I think Notre Dame is the last team where it's like comfortably you win and you're in. Right. And then it's like, because if BYU goes 11-1 and then loses in the conference championship, we saw last year SMU didn't get punished for losing in the conference championship, and they shouldn't be. That's kind of where the committee kind of stands on that. So I think that my biggest question is why is BYU below Alabama right now? I think that they should have the benefit of the doubt until they lose the second game.
So you think that BYU should be in a win-and-in scenario and Alabama should be the one needing help is basically what you're saying.
Well, I think so. I think that their only loss is Texas Tech. Obviously the SEC schedule is a little bit better. It's a great loss. Comparing and the committee loves to compare losses. That's what they said they're doing with Miami and Notre Dame. I'm just trying to use their logic.
I agree, by the way, yeah.
So if we're comparing losses, I think that BYU has a significantly better loss because they have less and they have a better one.
Right.
So, to me, there's not even a question here. And so if they go 11-1 and then lose in the Big 12 championship, they should not drop based on the own logic of the committee. So
I totally agree.
It's that we're kind of shaken where why is a 10-win team so low on the rankings right now?
I totally agree. Right now, BYU, if it ended today, would be out of the playoff. That's the issue. So right now, what they're saying is, yes, BYU is 10-1. Would a win at home against UCF do anything for them? In my estimation, it should lock them into the playoff. At 11-1, I don't think you're playing a 13th extra game. You're 11-1. You lost
Your
at Lubbock.
only loss is in Lubbock. Yeah.
They won the Holy War over Utah, who's ranked, according to the committee, number 13. They beat Cincinnati on the road, who was in the rankings, no longer in the rankings, obviously. But they only have one loss, like you said. That's at Texas Tech in Lubbock. That's a pretty darn good loss. So if BYU beats everyone on their schedule besides Texas Tech and gets left out, that would be pretty bad in my opinion. But there's so many teams ahead of them right now. It feels like BYU needs something to happen because there's so many 10-2 projected 10-2 teams ahead of them right now. Like I said with Oregon, or not with Oregon, with Oklahoma, Notre Dame, and Alabama being 9-2, probably going to be 10-2.
Yeah, I mean, I keep looking at Alabama, and I just can't believe that they're ranked this high. I mean, I'm looking at and obviously they beat Georgia, which is a phenomenal win.
Huge win,
but it's outside of that. I mean, what have they done? They beat Vandy, who's not in the playoff. They beat Missouri, who's not in the playoff.
That's another one.
They beat LSU, who sucks. They lost to Oklahoma, who is in the playoff. They have beat one playoff team, and obviously, I mean, it's just So I don't mean to keep beating this drum, but I'm just confused.
But here's the thing, and I want to go back to. I don't want to stay on Bama for too long, but I do want to talk about what's behind Bama because I think it's really important too. Like Bama, according to the committee, probably controls their own fate. If they beat Auburn, they're probably in, and they're probably going to Atlanta.
With the way they're ranking is, they wouldn't drop them, I don't think, for that loss.
Right, and by the way, if Bama beats Auburn, they're going to the SEC title game as well. So they can also just win the way in that way.
Is that right?
That it is right because what the scenario is, if A&M
only one conference loss, yeah.
Right now A&M, if they beat Texas, they're in, and if Bama beats Auburn, they're in. So those two teams control their own fate to Atlantic because remember, Bama beat Georgia head to head. So Georgia has no more.
Why does Bama have the Ole Miss head to head?
Because they beat
Georgia and Georgia beat Ole Miss.
They beat Georgia and Georgia beat Ole Miss. That's how it would go.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so basically it's A&M has 0 losses, and if A&M wins, they're in Atlanta. The second team would go to Bama because they have the head-to-head over Georgia is where it would go there. But if Bama obviously loses to Auburn, they're out of the playoff, in my opinion. I don't think a 9-3 Bama gets in, and they're not going to Atlanta either. So they have to win against Auburn, obviously. But what goes on behind Bama, and Joel Klatt mentioned it, you said BYU's in with a win. I agree with you. Joel Klatt believes a 9-2 Michigan with a win is in the playoff. They would be 10-2. They'd have the best win over anyone with a win over Ohio State. Would Michigan trump Notre Dame, Oklahoma? Well, they can't trump Oklahoma. They lost to Oklahoma head-to-head. They both be 10-2. Would Michigan
Well, are we sure how much that means?
Okay, maybe not. But would Michigan, who's right now, I believe, 16th or 17th in their last week, and we'll see where they're at tonight. I believe they were 17 or 16 heading into this week. Would Michigan – no, they were 17. Would Michigan jump all the way in the top 10 after beating Ohio State? Would they be in the 10-2?
I think that they would jump right above Notre Dame if they did beat Ohio State.
Okay.
I mean, I think you have to give them that credit. Ohio State's been the best team in the country this season, and it's not even a question. That defense is unbelievable. And so, I think you have to, right? I mean, that's the best win that you can get, and that would put them at 10-2. So to me, they'd have to be the best 10-2 team.
But George, here's the issue with that. Basically, what you're saying is then Notre Dame's not in a win-and-in scenario.
That's tough. Yeah, that is so hard.
But George, Notre Dame, USC, and USC smoked Michigan. So that's my issue. It'd be hard for me to put them over Notre Dame, even though I get that'd be the best win for sure. Notre Dame beat down the Trojans, who the very next week went down and beat down Michigan. I know it's different teams. I totally get it. But if Michigan, would that win over Ohio State, would it get them all the way into the top 10?
I think it should. I think it should. I think that it should. And I also think that if they win that game, they'll probably beat Indiana, but maybe not. I mean, who knows, I guess. It's just Ohio State, Michigan is like separate from the entire college football stratosphere.
It is, yeah.
But that's a really good point. I think that you have to respect that win, though. I mean, Notre Dame has those 2 losses. Obviously, it's been a while since they lost those games. Yeah. But I mean, I think that if Michigan beats Ohio State, there isn't a better win. And if they only have 2 losses, I get Notre Dame beat USC. But I mean, if we're going to do the transitive property, why don't we just compare Miami and Notre Dame? Right.
Sure. Okay. So, but you're saying that
loop back.
Okay, but here's the thing, George. We're running out of teams.
It's so hard. It's so hard.
So you're saying that Michigan is a win and in scenario this weekend, but they're ranked 17th right now, and they're behind so many teams. So if they win,
17th. I'm looking at the wrong rankings then because I'm looking at 15. Hold on. Okay.
I think that's the AP poll had him 15.
Yeah, you're right.
Last week's CFP rankings had him at 18. That's what last week's CFP they had him behind a 3-loss.
We'll see where they put him this week. I guess this conversation should change based on where they are.
Yeah, I'm talking about. So last week's ranking, they were behind a 3-loss Texas. So that's another thing. Now, would Texas beating a number 3 A&M keep them ahead of Michigan? I don't know. I'm just saying that right now they're behind a 3-loss Texas team. But if Michigan is also a win, first of all, if they win, they're going to Indianapolis. Can they afford a loss in Indy after beating Ohio State and still getting a 10-3? I don't think so.
No, but that's the same conversation we just had. Was that can you punish them for losing that conference championship game because they beat Ohio State and they got that great win, so is their ceiling it should be capped, because if the argument is, especially if the argument is Notre Dame, right? Because Notre Dame obviously doesn't play in a conference championship game,
Right.
so they get their 10-2 and they sit on it. They sit on
Yeah.
it. So should we punish Michigan for getting to 10-2 and then losing, or what? Because if they go 11-2, they win the Big Ten. Obviously, they're in.
They're in anyways.
But
yeah.
If they're 10-2 and then they lose in that game, that Notre Dame doesn't have an option to play in a conference championship game. So Notre Dame, why should Notre Dame get rewarded when Michigan loses? But also, I guess the conversation is, where would they land before the game?
That's my issue. I would not put them ahead of Notre Dame before the game started. So that's my thing. If they beat Ohio State, that's
so you're
great.
saying that you think that Michigan won't get in unless they win the Big Ten?
Correct. Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying they need chaos to happen as well.
Yeah, obviously. Assuming it shakes out relatively normally.
I'm saying in the assumption that
Indiana as well.
Yeah, I'm saying in the assumption that all the top 10 teams win this week, which is probably not going to happen, by the way. A&M has to go into Austin.
I don't know if I trust Oklahoma. I don't know if I trust Alabama.
That's what I'm saying. Oklahoma. I think one of Oklahoma or Alabama will lose, and it'll play itself out. I think that one of the Sooners and Crimson Tide are going to drop this way. I don't know who's going to be.
And then Vandy's also ahead of Michigan, so it's.
I was just going to mention them too. So Vanderbilt, Miami, and Utah are all 9-2. I don't know. It's so weird. I never thought I'd mention a 10-2 SEC team getting left out, but I don't know how much higher Vandy can climb. They do go to Neyland this weekend at 3:30. They have a chance to pad that resume one last time. They can't get to Atlanta, obviously. Mm-hmm. Can Vanderbilt? I just don't know how Vanderbilt can get in. I honestly, I'm trying to see who they can jump. They need BYU to lose to UCF. I think
they need Oklahoma and Alabama to lose.
Yeah, they need both of them.
It kind of feels like they both would have to drop to 3, and maybe even Notre Dame too. It just kind of feels like they need a ton of chaos, because if BYU is already ahead of them, I think BYU is going to go 11-1. So I don't think they'll drop anymore.
Right.
So yeah, for Vandy, it seems like a ton of chaos is needed. Obviously, they can't afford some weird Michigan jump where Michigan beats Ohio State and jumps.
That's what I'm saying. They also need Ohio State to win too. They need Ohio State to win.
Yeah, it's just so hard to compare these, because we're comparing how a Michigan win would react, but we don't know what the other games are. So it's like, if Georgia loses or something, they're 10-2 with a loss to Georgia Tech. It's like, wait, hold on, what's Georgia doing in there?
It's a good point.
There's just so many things that could happen. But yeah, for me, I just have a ton of respect for Ohio State. And so if Michigan gets that win, obviously, and it's not like Ohio State's resting. It's not like it's going to be Ohio State's to lock into the playoffs. No, they want this game maybe more than the Big Ten championship, probably more than the Big Ten championship.
Easily. Yeah.
They that's the game that could genuinely get Ryan Day fired a year after a national championship.
Insane.
So yeah, I think that it's so hard to predict. I think that I've been impressed with Michigan down the stretch here. They took care of business against Maryland last week. Obviously, Maryland's a powerhouse. But no, I mean, it's gonna be a really fun rivalry week here, and it's so hard to predict. So maybe we'll have to predict after the weekends, and we can go in and see.
We might have to do like an emergency. Yeah, I'm gonna say maybe an emergency pod. I do think if you're all the 2-loss teams right now, if you're Miami, if you're Vanderbilt, if you're Utah, if you're potentially BYU, if you're Bama, if you're Notre Dame, if you're Oklahoma, you don't want Michigan joining that 10-2 club.
You can't afford another 10-2 with that win.
You're like, hey, maybe no more 10-2s. We already have a lot of 10-2s right now. Let's maybe leave Michigan. We don't want them joining in the conversation and be like, hey, we're 10-2 as well.
Yeah, and there's like Virginia as well back there, who's like making some noise for some.
Yeah, but Virginia they are ACC or bust.
Yeah.
They have to be. But I want to get to Miami here, because Miami is 9-2. They are outside of Utah, I believe they are the lowest ranked 2-loss. Or I guess actually they're behind Utah ahead of Vandy heading in at last week's rankings.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, of course, last week's CFP rankings.
They're the highest ranked ACC team, so the graphic is kind of flawed because they have them winning the ACC, even though that's impossible. I'm pretty sure
it's not impossible. It's a 6%.
Oh, they can still win the ACC. Okay,
Miami needs to beat Pitt this week. They need Virginia. They need 2 of Virginia, SMU, and Duke to lose. Don't ask me why, but Duke is still.
Duke, because Duke has, I think, only 1 or 2 conference losses because they lost.
Correct. Duke is actually at 6-5, and they can win the ACC. So, but that's insane. But it's I know, but Duke
ACC champ would be fun.
It's insane, but Duke actually has more paths to the ACC title game than Miami does. That kind of tells you Miami's kind of in a bad situation. But Miami is 9-2. Notre Dame's 9-2. Obviously, we talked about this off air. Why is Miami ranked behind Notre Dame? I kind of the standpoint of course, a head-to-head win matters. I get it. I understand that. But it doesn't excuse the next 9 weeks of football. We don't do the CFP rankings in August.
You're right.
They beat them August 31st. We don't do the rankings. It's like, okay, well, I guess Notre Dame doesn't have to play any games the rest of the year because they lost to Miami. It's like the season's over. No, there are 9-10 weeks of football after that. Actually, that was week 1. So there's actually 11 weeks of football after that. So I don't think it excuses Miami to lose to 2 unranked teams. Like I think that Miami losing to 2 unranked teams, that they did that to themselves. Now they are tied, but unfortunately there's like 10-2 teams. So it's not Notre Dame's fault that there's a cluster of 2-loss teams that the committee believes Notre Dame is better than. That's why there's this gap between them and Miami. You can't just have Miami leapfrog Vandy, BYU, Utah, and Bama just to put them ahead of Notre Dame. You can't just have them leap out. If you don't believe that they're better than those teams, you can't just have them, oh, well, they beat Notre Dame, so put them at the top of the line. That's not really how it works, because then you'd be excusing those unranked losses to those two bad ACC teams. SMU's not bad, but Louisville is we watched Clemson beat them the other day.
It's a talent. Louisville's talented, but that's a game that Miami should win.
Miami's at home, and they threw 5 picks. Like, that's not a good.
Yeah, I think that the biggest issue here is that they're so far apart. Like, I just don't see anything happening that brings them close enough to where the head-to-head will become a relevant point, right?
George, do you think they should be that far apart?
I think right now I agree, because I think that Miami isn't that good right now. I think that they haven't really, like you said, they haven't done anything since like September. Really, that's impressed me. They peaked in September. That Florida State win or the Florida win was kind of like their best win.
Right.
So yeah, to me it kind of feels like I understand why they're ranked here. I think that the issue is that like BYU is too low. Like these teams, like I'm looking at this ranking and it just feels like flawed logic that we've got.
You would put BYU ahead of Notre Dame, right? With the way
I would. Okay, I think that you have to respect the 10-1 team, Power 5, whose only loss is top 5. Texas.
George, they have a better resume than Oregon.
Oregon hasn't beaten anyone.
I know.
Oregon, USC, and Iowa, who are both going to be unranked at the end of the season.
Oh, I was not close to the rankings anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So yeah.
It's weird because I agree, and I think that, and here's the reason why I brought up the head-to-head, because it is of course important. Miami won on a last-second field goal by 3 in August. My issue is, and this was the first ranking. It's funny. This is the first time they're doing this. Well, it's not the first time they're doing a 12-team playoff. It's the first time they're ranking them 1 to 12. Obviously, last year you had the automatic top 4. It was very weird seating wise. This year they're seeding them 1 through 12. Like so they're going to get the 12 teams in.
Why to me it kind of feels like they're picking the rankings and then picking the logic. Right?
I agree, but in the first year of the 4-team CFP, I still to this day vehemently disagree with the decision. TCU lost a last-second field goal at Baylor, 59-56. It was early in the season. It was TCU's only loss. After that loss at Baylor by 3 on a walk-off field goal in Waco, they were bludgeoning teams by 70. It's kind of what Notre Dame's doing right now. And by the end of the year, I looked at it and I said, oh, you know what? If they played again on a neutral site, TCU would stomp Baylor. That was my opinion at the time. And 11 years later, I still believe that. TCU was 3, and obviously at that time, the Big 12 did not have a championship. So TCU was in the playoff at 3. And by the time the rankings came out, they were 6 because Ohio State had jumped them with the Big Ten title. And again, TCU and Baylor were at home watching because there was no Big Ten title game. But
that was such a flaw. I remember that because it gave so much credit to Ohio State.
But everyone was saying, well, Baylor beat TCU head-to-head, so you got to put Baylor in over TCU. Yep. They ended up both getting left out because Ohio State had an insane 55-0 win over Wisconsin. But in a scenario like that, I would have put TCU over Baylor, and they lost to Baylor. So I'm just giving my own. I'm staying consistent here. I would rank Notre Dame ahead of Miami because I believe in the last 10 weeks of football, I've watched Notre Dame being the better football team. That's what my eyes tell me. And while Miami peaked in September, the games after September do still matter. You can't then just lose to Louisville in October and then lose to SMU in November. The games in October and November do matter. And I still, again, we saw what TCU ended up doing in their bowl game. They smoked Ole Miss like by 60, and then Baylor lost to Michigan State. So I think that the rankings did themselves. So I thought TCU never should have been 6th in the CFP rankings that final year in 2014.
Yeah,
just because they lost on a walk-off field goal at Baylor at 59-56 by 3. That was like one of the better losses of the season. And I don't think Notre Dame should get crushed by a bad, not a bad, like good loss in August. I don't think that. Now again, if Notre Dame, they need to handle their business and beat everyone by 50. But right now they kind of are doing that.
Yeah, I think that logic tracks. It's just it's so hard to pick this stuff. I get
head-to-head.
Yeah. To me it's that if you're comparing who the best team is, then that's one thing. But every year we move in and out of that because we had 2023 where Florida State's undefeated, but they're not an elite team because their quarterback isn't elite and they get left out. But the question is, are the playoffs supposed to be merit-based or are the playoffs supposed to be talent-based? And to me, if we're comparing seasons, because let's not sit here and act like the Big 10, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC, and the American are all the same conference. It's a different brand of football that we're playing in different places. So I think you have to be merit-based on – you have to compare strength of record and strength of resume. But to me, it's like if you're I'm going to keep going back to BYU. Like if you're 10-1 BYU and your only loss is a top 5 team on the road, there's just no reason. There's just no reason you should be ranked below an Oklahoma, a Notre Dame, and Alabama, teams with 2 losses. Alabama, obviously, it was in August, but they lost to Florida State. Like that still has to mean something.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean. So I think that it's just, to me, the biggest issue is we're confused on what the definition of a playoff team is, and that I think that our committee is flawed because it's full of athletic. Like we've got the Virginia athletic director on the committee. Like, and I love Virginia, UVA, Wahoo Wah, but it's like, bro, why? Like, what? Like, you shouldn't be in there. Your
No,
team
I
is
know.
in the mix. So I think that the biggest issue to me is that we have a flawed system of picking these teams. But yeah, I mean, I think that based on where the rankings are now, there's a lot of stuff where I don't think Miami has a path in as an at-large, realistically, unless some crazy chaos happens.
That's what I'm saying. I think that they're gonna. I actually think they're gonna get the help they needed. I think that Oklahoma or Bama will lose.
I agree with that sentiment. Yeah.
Yeah, but my issue is I don't trust Miami to go into Pitt and win. George, did you know that last week against Virginia Tech was their first win this season outside of the state of Florida? We talked about it.
We talked about it. It's just crazy.
It's not their fault, but they didn't lose. They did not beat SMU in Dallas. They lost that game. They obviously beat Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech is basically just punting on the season. They're done.
Virginia Tech's waiting for next year. Yeah,
they're 3-8. They're like, we got Franklin on the sideline. We're kind of showing him off.
Their recruiting class is getting a little impressive.
Yeah, Virginia Tech. Talk about Virginia Tech next year, not this year. But next year we'll talk about Virginia Tech. Their last game is at Pitt. Pitt looks really good. They went in and stomped Georgia Tech in Atlanta.
I wish they didn't work so hard in that not Notre Dame. Wasn't Notre Dame? Yeah, the Notre Dame game.
Pat Narduzzi basically was like, "Hey, we don't have to win this game." It was kind of a bad way.
Like, he's right, but it's just like, man, they got ran through.
I know they did, and that kind of tells you another thing about Notre Dame. It's like another feather in their cap. If Miami can't do what Notre Dame did at Pitt just 2 weeks ago, I mean, but Miami's going into Pittsburgh, where just 2 weeks ago Notre Dame smoked Pittsburgh, and that game was over in the first quarter.
Yeah, so you should be able to learn from that tape. Yeah,
right. So Miami has to win anyways because they have to get in as an at-large or as an ACC champion, but they also have to do it impressively. Like, there's no doubt Miami has to leave no doubt that you are better than Pitt and beat them soundly, so that you can kind of put that right next to Notre Dame. It's like, hey, we did exactly what Notre Dame did, and again, we beat Notre Dame. That should matter. Right. So if you're Miami, it's still out in front of you. I just don't think they're going to beat Pitt. I really don't. So maybe that's a hot take. I don't know, but I don't trust Mario Cristobal in November in a road game. I saw last year 8-3 Syracuse got him. And Pitt's 8-3. Same thing could happen this year. But I think that right now, and I don't know if you disagree, I think that there's only of the teams that are still fighting for an at-large spot. I think all the teams we mentioned already: BYU, Michigan, Vanderbilt, Miami, Utah, and then I think Texas is the last team of that group. I think whoever's behind Texas, I mean, Michigan might be behind Texas, but other than Michigan and Texas, who might be at the bottom of this thing I'm talking about right now, I don't think anyone after them has a chance to get into the playoffs. Do you agree that Texas and Michigan is like where it ends as far as we'll see the rankings tonight? But
I think that's fair. Yeah, depending on where they kind of shake out tonight. I think
just because Texas plays at A&M, or Texas plays against A&M, who's number 3, and Michigan plays against Ohio State, who's number 1. Like, they have something on their resume left that could get them there. Yeah, but other than that, the teams behind them don't have enough on their schedule that could even get them.
I think Texas is the line. I don't think there's a 3-loss team getting that large bid that isn't Texas.
Totally.
Obviously, I don't see Tennessee or USC doing anything. And then like the JMU and like North Texas stuff, it would have to be an at-large or a group of conference championship bids. Yeah,
right. That'll play them out. It looks like North Texas and Tulane are both in win and in scenarios, and if they win, they're in the AAC title game. JMU obviously will be in the Sun Belt title game, and I guess it's just gonna be whoever's ranked higher between the AAC champion and the JMU in this case, which I think Tulane's ranked right now. I do believe that if North Texas beat Tulane in the AAC title game, they'd be ranked. And then what do you do with JMU? They're both 10-1. JMU's 10-1. North Texas is 10-1. Tulane is 9-2, but Tulane's ranked. We'll see how that all plays itself out. I'm interested to see what the rankings look like tonight. But George, any last thoughts as we head into rivalry week? This is my favorite time of year. We got Feast Week in college basketball going on right now. We have the Black Friday slate. We have, George, at noon, we have Utah fighting for the playoff lives. 3:30, we have clean old-fashioned hate between Georgia and Georgia Tech. And then at 7:30 ABC, we have A&M and Texas. And
that's Friday night?
All that's on Friday. All that is on
Friday. And we have NFL Friday, too, I think.
We also have a Black Friday NFL game. We have Thursday on Thanksgiving, we have 3 great NFL games. And then obviously on Saturday, we have awesome rivalry week. Any last thoughts on this entire week of football?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head right there. We've got maybe the best week of football all year this year.
Easily, yeah.
I'm just so excited to kind of see how it shakes out. I think you're right. There's going to be an Oklahoma-Alabama loss. I don't know. The Egg Bowl's weird. Ole Miss isn't like a lock yet.
Well, actually, that's a great point. I want to bring up that real quick though. If Ole Miss loses and they're 10-2, and Lane Kiffin says I'm out, do you treat that? Do you treat that as remember Jordan?
Oh my God!
Well, here's the thing, George. You brought it up perfectly. Jordan Travis. Remember? No, this is a different scenario. He got hurt.
Dude, I just hate that that's the situation, that we're comparing guys because their coach is gone. Like, I know. It's just so flawed, man.
It's so bad. But here's the thing, George. A 10-2 Ole Miss with wins at Oklahoma. They have obviously a win over. They've been great in SEC play all year. But they have a road win at Norman. They have a win over Tulane. They have good wins.
Beat LSU when they were number 4 in the
country. Beat LSU, exactly right. Yeah, so they have nice wins. Ole Miss at 10-2 SEC team with a win at Oklahoma. So in this scenario would possibly also be 10-2. Would you leave a 10-2 Ole Miss team out because Lane Kiffin is not coaching the CFP? Would you treat it as Jordan Travis, who's not there for Florida State? Would you be like, well, they don't have Lane Kiffin, so sorry, we're going to leave you out at 10-2?
I'll get ahead of this. I'll say that if that does happen, that's ridiculous. I think that should never happen, that we should never be comparing personnel on the field. I think that the fact that precedent was set with Florida State is complete BS, and that Florida State got screwed that year. So let me start.
You believe they got screwed, right?
I believe they got screwed. I think that if you go 13-0 and you go undefeated, you win your division, you win your conference. I don't care if your quarterback goes to Mars. I think you should be in the playoffs.
Okay, so you wanted to see Brock Vandegrift against Michigan in the CFP.
I mean, maybe I didn't want to see it, but I mean, he deserved a spot there. Like we're gonna act like their full team is the quarterback. Like we're talking about the Bills this season and Josh Allen's the whole team. Like I don't know. Like so it's not a one player team. So to me, if that is the situation where if they go on there after Ole Miss somehow loses the Egg Bowl, which I don't think they will, but let's say for hypothetical scenario they do.
Sure,
here's an even better one. Maybe they win the Egg Bowl and Lane Kiffin still says I'm gone. If they get on the broadcast, if they get on the broadcast and they're like, well, we don't know if we trust their play calling, it's like, dude, abolish the entire.
No, George. If they leave an 11-1 Ole Miss team out of the CFP, that will be the end of a committee.
But let's not act like okay. But we'll be honest here. 11-1 Ole Miss that doesn't have Lane Kiffin is genuinely an average team.
George.
I think if you don't have your signal caller, that's a worse team that Florida State team would have been. I think that the Florida State team has a better argument than the Ole Miss team does.
Yes, but
the logic that for straight, but it should never exist to begin with. Let me finish with saying that.
Yeah, but George, that's a 14 playoff. This is a 12-team playoff. There's no way on earth that you leave out. There's no way on earth that you leave out an 11-1 Ole Miss.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I know, but it's just kind of the way. I'm just using the logic. I'm just explaining why the logic is so flawed.
I understand. But to further your point, if Ole Miss is 11-1 and Lane Kiffin takes the LSU or Florida job, if I'm anyone in the CFP, I want to go to Oxford and play Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin. That would be the dream.
That's a dream right there, yeah.
That's the dream scenario. If you're the group of 5 team, I want to go at Ole Miss. If you're an 11 or a 10 or a 9 seed, you want to go at Ole Miss. That is the team you want to play in the first round. If you're the ACC champion, because right now Ole Miss is ranked 6th, they're probably going to be finished 6th, I'm assuming, unless there's chaos in front of them. Yeah. So if you're the 11th, if you're the ACC champion, if you're Virginia or if you're SMU or if you're somehow Pitt or Miami, you want to be that 11-6 matchup. You want to be in that 6 versus 11. You want to place Ole Miss in Oxford without their signal caller. That would be the perfect scenario right now. But I do agree with you. It'd be very. They're not leaving Ole Miss.
It's just if they do lose that game, I think there's kind of a world just because Ole Miss doesn't have that many crazy great wins this year.
Right outside of Oklahoma, they would be a 10-2 team, and they would put themselves at risk if they lose to a 4-7
like that, especially with that loss. Like that Mississippi State loss is a real bad.
Very late to the end of the season. It's like the very last thing you see, of course.
But I think that Ole Miss is. Unless they get somehow destroyed, I think that they should be in regardless.
Well, George, that's why I didn't lock them. I only had 4 locked. I had Ohio State, Indiana.
That's true.
I didn't lock them. I had Ohio State locked. I had Indiana locked. I had A&M, and I had Georgia locked. I think Texas Tech cannot afford to lose at West Virginia. West Virginia is terrible. I don't think that Ole Miss can afford to lose the Egg Bowl. Plus, if Lane Kiffin leaves, I know it's semantics, but it will matter probably. They set the precedent that it mattered with Jordan Travis.
They will. They 100% will. I think if Lane Kiffin's gone, it absolutely will be reflected in the
10-2 with no Lane Kiffin. Yeah, 10-2 with no Lane Kiffin. Can the committee say that they're a top 10 team right now? I would say they aren't, personally, but merit wise and what they've earned, I understand
what they deserve, they should be in. But
totally agree.
The committee is garbage.
All right, George, that was fun. We got it'll be less than 15 minutes until we see the rankings come out. So let's rush and let's see what it looks like. But I cannot wait for this weekend of football. Yep. Turkey Day starts on that, and it's going to end obviously on Sunday and on Monday with Monday Night Football. But we're gonna have an awesome 5-day slate of football games coming up here. But
we'll be on after everything for the selection show recap, and we'll
recap all of it. Yeah, 100%. All right, George. Well, we will see you next time.
All right, sounds good.